Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt here with the Christ School of Theology. You're watching a series of lectures in a course called Faith, Knowledge, and Reason. These lectures are on the great German theologian and philosopher, mathematician, logician, Gottlieb Leibniz. And we're talking about his metaphysics, and of course we're talking about his notion of a simple substance. Now, a simple substance is that which has a complete individual concept, and he always likes to use, as an example of this, Alexander the Great. So there we go. Alex the Great, right? Okay. Alexander the Great there's all kinds of things that happen. He was, of course, a student. He was born of Philip of Macedonia. He was a student of Aristotle. He conquered certain parts of the world in these years and certain parts of the world in other years and died at the age of 31, right? And all of these things that happen to Alex are somehow included within the complete individual concept of Alexander the Great. So the things that happen to him are in some sense intrinsic properties, right, of Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great couldn't be Alexander the Great were it not for the fact that all of these properties obtain of him. A substance here is Alexander the Great is, according to our good friend Leibniz, an active unity, we'll talk about that, endowed both with perception, and when you hear the word perception, I want you to think of representations in the mind, okay, and appetition, that is appetite. Now, of course, Aristotle had a distinction between the substance and the accidents of a thing, right? And Aristotle, of course, thought a substance was that which is a subject of predication, either accidents or essential predication, and cannot be predicated of anything else. Well, of course, secondary substances could be, but not primary substances. He takes issue with this somewhat, and he says that we can say that the nature of an individual substance or of a complete being is to have a notion so complete that it is sufficient to contain and to allow us to deduce, now think of that, deduce from it all the predicates of the subject to which this notion is attributed. So if I had a complete notion of Alexander the Great, I could deduce all of the truths in which Alexander the Great finds himself, right? Dying at 31, his great battle victories, all of that. Okay, so now, something is a substance if and only if it has a complete individual concept, a concept that contains all predicates of that subject, past, present, and future. And it is this complete individual concept that individuates substances. Okay? Now, if you spin back in these lectures and look at our good friend Scotus, you'll remember that we had a notion of haikity, right? Scotistic thought. Haikity is very important. There's the quiddity, the whatness of a thing, and then there is the thatness of the thing. And the thatness of the thing is that which makes the thing the particular thing that the thing is. It is its thatness. Sometimes people call that an individual essence, right? What Leibniz says here is that individual substance has a notion or a haikity, a thisness, by which God sees the basis and reason for all predicates truly predicatable of him. So Stacy over there or Bob over there might not see why all of the things predicatable of Alexander follow from Alexander, but of course God does. A thing's haikity is the sum of all of its qualitative properties. It is what makes the thing that the thing is. And if we think of this haikati of the thing, it is an essence from God's perspective. The complete individual concept of a substance is its essence as it is known by God. Of course, the theory of individual essences here. Now this gets us into a very interesting notion in Leibniz. It's his so-called doctrine of marks and traces. Now, because the complete individual concept of anything contains all predicates true of that substance, past, present, and future. Now, sit down for this one. This means that the entire history of the universe can be read by God in the essence of any individual substance. So every truth, every putative relation, again, we always think of terms of relations, any way that Alexander the Great impacts any other thing, all of that is contained within Alexander the Great, and from God's perspective, God can read much of the universe out of Alexander the Great. Okay. Well, you're thinking of God reading the universe. Let's have a Leibniz quote here. When we consider carefully, he says, the connection of things, we can say that from all time in Alexander's soul, there are vestiges of everything that has happened to him and marks of everything that will happen to him, and even traces of everything that happens in the universe, even though God alone can recognize them all. So in each and every simple substance, there is a perspective, if you will, on the entire universe, because every simple substance is finally connected with the truths of every other thing, right? Okay, now I want to throw this little argument out here. Leibniz holds that no two substances can resemble each other completely and be distinct. That's his identity of indiscernibles. And a substance can only begin in creation now and end in annihilation. Now listen to this. A substance, like Alexander, is not divisible. To be a substance is to not be divisible, right? Attila the Hun's not divisible. My dog Girl, yes, I have a dog by the name of Girl, is not divisible. Matter's divisible, seemingly, but that's because that just shows it's not a substance. Matter's not a substance because it's divisible. It's not a suppositum, something that carries predicates. One substance, he says, cannot be constructed from two. Each substance is its own unity. The number of substances does not naturally increase and decrease. Every substance is like a complete world and like a mirror of God, or of the whole universe. Every substance is a complete world, and like a mirror of God, or of the whole universe, which each expresses in its own way. Right? Now, this brings us to a very important point. If every substance is a complete world and like a mirror of God or of the whole universe, each in its own way, that means that every substance is causally isolated from every other substance. This substance does not cause that substance to change. Now we're going to get to the point where we're going to talk about these things as monads, and just remember this. Every monad is windowless. Yes, this is something that you must take with you. Every monad is windowless. This is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt from the Christ School of Theology. You're watching a series of lectures on Leibniz, and I'm using some of the material out of the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on Look and some of my own thinking on Leibniz over the years. So thanks very much. I'll be right back.